This is the Dope Black Dad podcast. My name is Marvyn Harrison. We have still come up to the studios. We are not leaving. This is the third hour of us, or third installment that we've got from us. They're currently outside the door doing the wrap-up sign. We are ignoring them because we are black and we can do what we want in Black History Month, which starts in 2
Dope
days'
black
time.
dads, we do what we want.
We
Dope
do
what we want. Dope black dads,
Oh,
we
no,
do
please.
what we want.
That was really funny because we did that and immediately said not really because we all have high levels of accountability and we are responsible to families and children and partners. So let's not pretend. But thank you so much for coming back and joining us again. I'm here again with Lesley, Darwood and Romantha. How are you now? How are you feeling?
Yeah, really good actually.
I like that we're all wearing green. Darwood technically had green on.
Yeah,
Before and took it
and a
off.
scarf because
little
you said it looked
embroidered
like
scarf.
a high vis.
It did look a little bit, no, the way you had it around your neck, it
Like
looked
that.
like he was wearing a high-vis vest. And I didn't want people to
you
feel
need to
like...
tie it in a bird style.
Yeah, you had it
something.
around your
but
neck
then-
last time.
Yeah,
time.
because it
Stand
just
it
made me
up.
too
hot.
Oh, okay, cool.
He's
Fair
already
enough.
hot.
Well, look, we don't have long. We have a 20-minute episode and we're on timers. So I want to be able to ask this amazing question. But I think, Ro, you asked it better. What was the question that you had that you wanted to share with us?
I think
And what the thinking behind it as well. I'd love to know.
the question was, is love enough? But I think we have to take a few steps back first, and in a sentence or two, define love for ourselves. How do we define love? And then the question, how do we make love last? Do we romanticize love? I heard you have a particularly strong opinion about romantic love earlier, Lesley. And then the other one is, how do we make it last?
So which one are we going with first?
So let's define it.
Because we've got 20 minutes.
Make it last forever.
And
Forever.
ever.
Oh, please.
Quiet.
Please
Don't be quiet.
don't make Marvin's dream come true.
Listen, I want to talk black choir.
Oh, that would be so sick.
I don't even care if we can
That
sing
would
or
be
not.
so
Just
sick.
harmonizing
Because
is
you've been
dope.
listening to that Kanye album.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for hours.
All right, so I would define love as a mirror of myself. And I've only really realized that as I got older, that every relationship that I've been in romantically have shown me more about myself than it has about the other person. How I conduct myself, how I react, how I extend myself, how I take parts of myself and put them, like hide them. So every part of every stage of my life where I've been in, whether it was my teenage years or early 20s, teenage years, you can't really call that love because you're just trying to figure it out, how your body works, and how all of these hormones work that you're feeling. So you don't know what to do with that. And in your 20s, you sort of figure it out. You're fumbling. And then you get to your 30s and you're like, it feels like I have an idea. I know there's a lot more to discover. I'm in my 30s, and I know there's at least 2 decades of still self-discovery to happen. And yeah, I think it has just been a great mirror to where I am in my life and how open I am to it. So that's my definition of love. A true reflection of where I am in my life.
How about you, Darwood?
I actually don't know what love is, but in terms of being able to articulate what it is, and that, but even when you said about it mirroring you, I'm just like, if your spirit's from God, then God is love, then is that what love is? I don't know. So we are love. Innit?
There you go.
I don't know what it is, but I do believe everything feels it. So plants have a version of love that they also can't
But what is it for
articulate.
you? You're not going to get away with this.
What is it
Trust
for
me.
me?
And spirits.
There's so many different versions of it that I experience. So the love I have for my family, the love I have for friends, the love
But what is it?
in
If you could
terms
put it
of
into a word,
into a word, I can't.
you can't.
I can't.
A
I actually
feeling?
can't.
I feel like that's
in
an
fact,
answer,
in fact,
I don't know
the
it's an
only
answer.
if I was to put love into a word, it would be love. But then you'd ask me to explain what love is, and
Get it.
so we're back.
I guess sometimes
to
it's
zero.
maybe easier to describe what love felt like when you've lost love.
When I've been heartbroken, it felt like my left arm was ripped off. Like
That's very
literally,
specific.
yeah, it did. It literally, it felt like my left arm had gone, and every waking moment, my brain would find find this person that was missing, and I didn't like it so much. To the point that it's kind of, this is where I believe, because women have been taught how to experience love from a younger age, and men, we were not taught so much.
What makes you think that we were taught to experience it?
Maybe not experience it. You talk about it with other women. It's
We aspire to it.
You aspire to it. It's programmed. The whole fairy tale story. Men are not on that. We just want to play football. So,
What about you, Les?
Well, it's interesting you say that about, women being like more able to express the emotion of love and understand it. I don't know if us as black women have really been that free in that sense.
Since I've been
Yes.
heartbroken, I have not wanted to ever experience being in love again.
Oh wow.
Like, it's weird.
You loved deeply.
Uh,
You were in love.
I was in love, but I was like, I didn't like who I was when I was in love. I didn't like just
That's
being that
interesting.
vulnerable, like, and whatnot. I remember the weirdest thing that's left me. I would, every time I hold a woman's hand, I would hold it in a masculine way. But when I was in love, I wouldn't. I would hold it in. So I don't know how to explain it.
You lead.
I would lead, so my hand would be over her hand.
Protection.
But when I was in love, it was the other way round.
Joint,
Oh.
yeah.
And like, I remember at the time thinking, what kind of nonsense is this? Like, I don't want to do this, but this feels really comfortable. So yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I
yours.
guess for me, being in love is about being your true self, being accepted.
Or is that being
judged.
loved?
Yeah, you can be your true self without judgment. So, in other words, you're being completely vulnerable with who you are as a person, and knowing that that person who is with you understands. And if they don't fully understand, they are trying to understand. They're accommodating who you are, who you're trying to become, who you are at your core. So you feel held, supported, and yeah, you it gives you a sense of freedom to really be free.
You Mo?
You know, it's really good when you talked about you didn't like who you were when you were in love, and I realized that the vulnerability that I have to be open to when you're in love with someone can make you inconsistent and can make you do things that your logical mind would say I would never do. And I didn't like that. And I felt like I used to chase those. I've been in relationships where I've chased the feeling of being understood, or chased the feeling of acceptance, or chased the feeling of having a loving experience. And in the chasing is where my inconsistencies would show up. Because you start doing weird things. You start like trying to manipulate things. Like, if I do this for you, would you become loving to me if I give you this iPhone? Or if I turn up to your thing, would you come to mine? Because that's what love looks like to me. And I just remember like not really being as powerful.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't about just how I loved. It was like the loving situation I was in. There wasn't a connection on our values while being loving. And I think love language is probably a better way of putting it. If your love language is aligned, when you love, they receive it. And when they give it, you understand it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, so for me, love is an experience. And I feel like at any moment, like right now, this is a loving experience. I feel it. And if it didn't, and if it shifted, I would be present to it. And then I can, if I were in love and I can correct you, I can be like, Lesley, I feel like what you just did wasn't loving. And in that moment, if you hear me and take a moment to pause, reflect, and then invite yourself back into my life, that is love to me.
Absolutely.
It's not that you do everything right and perfect, but it's like, if you are you reachable? Are you open to me telling you that what you're doing isn't loving to me, and you try to adjust yourself and come back? That for me is what love is. So falling out of love is the desire to no longer do that. Like, it's just you're not open to it. And then that can be just observed and reflected upon. Like, I feel like any relationship I've had historically, the point where I've said it's not going to work is when I realized that the loving experience is no longer available to me for whatever reason. It just isn't. And rather than keep offering iPhones and trips and opportunities and things that you think are going to help, you just accept what the reality is. And it's so funny because my mum is an amazing barometer of like witnessing love. And so when the love is there, she can point it to me and say, that what you've got right now is a beautiful experience. But she's also been the one on multiple occasions to turn around and say, do you know what, Marvyn? This isn't a loving experience. I don't understand what you see. So I hope you're okay. Like she's one of those where you're like, shit. Right.
She's
You
seen
got
it.
me. So that for me has been my best definition, is love is an experience.
What was the moment you knew I'm in trouble? I'm in love.
Darwood, you sound like you were there.
Ignoring red flags. Like a red flag came up and I was like, oh, okay.
You just
And another
But
one
you
came
knew-
and oh, okay.
So you're saying at the time you knew it was a red flag?
Yeah, 100%. I was like, oh, I don't like that. And then I just ignored it. And then I remember I was actually on stage with my band and she was in the audience and I hadn't admitted it to myself, but I said it to her. So I hadn't admitted it to myself, but I said it to her. Yeah, it's love, innit? And she received it. And that
You said it on stage?
I said it
while
on
stage?
Yeah. Because it
Grand
just
display
came.
of love, huh?
It weren't a grand display. That's the thing. I know you don't know me as well as a thing, but literally, there are many a moment where my instincts kick in and I just do without thinking. I think it's when I'm at my best, when I'm not thinking or overthinking or having fear lead or worrying about that. That's when I go. And I looked at her and I said it. And that was that.
Wow.
Was that also the moment you knew you were in love?
I think I accepted it then, but I hadn't even had a discussion, and that.
So
but
you hadn't told her. It was just. So did you say from the stage?
no, with
I
me and her.
love you"?
I mean, talking to myself, because the question was, when did you know you was in trouble? But I hadn't even spoke to myself, and that. But from growing up, like I used to fall in love so easy when I was a kid. Like I would see a girl, like I remember when I was living in Nigeria, this girl called Ronke. If you're out there, Ronke, and you ever get to hear this, and that everybody knew that I really liked her. She knew that I really liked her. I just couldn't tell her. I just couldn't bring myself. Then I would take the long way home to walk past their house and whatnot in the hopes of seeing her. Did this for 2 whole years. 2 whole years. Finally saw her outside her house on a Friday. I remember this. And I went, oh, you're right. And I ran off. And then see, this is me in primary school and whatnot. So she was so confused because she was ready for the conversation. And that.
You have one of those, Mom?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
One of those when you like someone and it's so deep in your head that you don't actually verbalize it in a way that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's not usable to the other
Yeah.
person, but it's so overwhelming inside. You're just there like,
Yeah.
I like you very much. I think I'd ask someone, would you be my girlfriend, please?
Please.
No, but do you understand?
Yeah.
That's how it comes out.
It's
But I
mad.
didn't even see that you got to that stage. I didn't even get to that
Yeah.
stage.
No, but that stage
Yeah.
took maybe 6 weeks, the whole 6 weeks holiday.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with her. And then and I think she knew by week 3. But by week 6 in my head, it was like, if I get the words out, it will definitely happen. And I remember I knocked on her door and her sister opened the door. And then I was like, oh, is she here? Can I talk to her? And then I was just sweating and I was stuttering all sorts. She came downstairs and I was just like, I just really want to talk to you. Then I went on a monologue.
Yeah.
And then I went and said, would you be my girlfriend, please? And she's like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Oh no.
See, was that your first heartbreak?
Yeah, I think it was.
How soon did you jump back on the horse? It took ages.
No, it took 2 years.
See?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
heartbreak.
Rejection.
No one talks to us about
Yeah,
rejection as men.
rejection.
Oh, that's what
Like,
it is, isn't it?
It's rejection.
Rejection.
It was so big that I didn't understand it. Like I just couldn't understand because all the cues in my head that I thought had to exist.
And you've worked so
We're there.
hard to
Yeah.
say the thing.
And then I didn't actually think about what her reality was. And she didn't want a guy that needed 6 weeks to say that and was sweating and stuttering and doing 9-minute monologues.
She didn't know where it's coming from.
And also, we were 16,
her.
so no one cool is doing that. You're just like, yo, you're my girl now, or some mad thing like that. That's probably what was happening.
This is another thing and whatnot. Like that's that masculine club over the head analogy approach and whatnot. Like, and as a kid, I was never on that approach.
No.
Like, I remember just meeting the guys that we met each other through and whatnot. They'd be like, Darwood, you look so coarse, but you're not really coarse, are you? And I was like, yeah, I'm like,
You
I
look
would
so
never approach a
coarse.
girl
No.
like angry, like on it,
Never.
like, because they were coarse with girls.
Yeah.
I was not coarse with girls.
Never.
Like, I was just like,
Never.
yeah, I'm not on it.
Do you know
Like,
what? Yeah, I often get mandingoized. That's even a word. Yeah. If you're over, because you're over 6 foot,
yeah, 100%.
and you got a frame, you're just like you're long dick Harry, yeah, and you just walk around long dick and everything.
100%.
Oh, wow.
100%.
So-
I watch
wow.
girls when Marvyn walks into a room, and I got some other 6 foot tall guys like that are friends. When they walk into a room, I watch how women change. Like, there's something inbred in you young ladies that you don't respond to these things. You do.
But let me because I don't want to get into that.
Let's not. But it does
How
exist.
can you say your own ass?
No, I don't. So I think it's interesting because like I see myself as a sapiosexual. So there's levels of things that have to happen in the mind before it's actually something that I want to do.
But that has nothing to do with how you are received. That's what he's talking
No,
about.
but that's my point. So imagine in my head, whatever you think I'm doing, until you've got me here, you don't have me.
Right.
And if nobody ever thinks that you have anything up here, you're just tall and it's like, what's that saying? You're like, it's actually disgusting. So it's a mad thing to say to someone where it's like, that slightly disgusts me, what you've just done. Because you didn't respect anything up here. And I need that to
Is
activate.
it emasculating?
It's not emasculating because I don't feel less of a man. What I feel is just, that's dead. Like, that's not it. And then you try to explain it and they so don't believe you. Like, they would never believe that how you show up needs more than just a vagina. Like, just open it up and it's like, and I'm like, nah, I'm cool. And then
So now that we know it's not a problem for Marvyn to find love, is it difficult? Is it difficult to find love? I mean, there's social media today. There's there's a new app every other day.
I think it's difficult to find compatibility.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yes, it just is.
when was the last time you found compatibility? When was the last time you saw someone you was like, do you know what? You see you, yeah? When was the last time you had a vision?
Every time I step out my house.
Let's do mentally, because I think
mentally, it's been a while. It's been a while.
What's the barrier for you? You said you were in love. You lost your left arm.
Yeah.
You're not back in the game.
I'm not, but you know what it is I'm a man. I still have needs.
Okay.
And Jesus Christ, God made black women so beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
So how do you balance that? So this is actually, because we have women here. This is good.
Yeah.
We know women. There are some women who fundamentally just have needs and they want to participate in that.
I can't meet them.
Hold on a second.
Please
Hold on a
introduce me to
second.
them right now,
We
so I
know-
can get over my shit.
We know that they exist, yeah. That it's just about physicality, and we all need a release.
I
in our
don't
world.
believe they exist.
Simplified,
This is some
yeah?
unicorn people you're talking about.
How would you say is the appropriate way to go about that? I think men often want something simple, feel like they have to do cartwheels, then do cartwheels and cartwheel themselves out of something simple. So how would you suggest, if you just want a situation with a guy where it's much simpler, or are you just not in that space?
I got to forewarn you. This is the most intense listen that I'm going to do all day. Go for it.
I think that men just need to be upfront.
I think men get so far with honesty. So I think because men have this idea of women and they're precious, fragile. We have to. They have feelings and we do have all of those things. But sometimes our vibrator and our dildo and whatever we use is just not enough. We want a pair of arms and someone to wake up to in the morning, but also
some
leave
warmth.
because I have work. So be honest. And on the apps, it's so easy because you can say DTF. Everyone knows what that is. And you could be really honest about your intentions and who you are. But DTF...
You've just gone to the apps. I don't know whether it's confidence or anything, but I don't think I represent myself online.
Very well.
Yeah, like
find a woman to help you. We're really good at that.
Yeah, just
you know?
find a wing woman.
Find a wing woman.
A wing woman.
Find a wing woman.
Always help.
But I can tell you,
Definitely.
casual relationships in person, finding those in person is is becoming more difficult for people to find because of like the previous podcast we spoke about, like how men present themselves and the things in our head. So if I see that you're non-threatening, I know what you want and I know what I want, and then you get to the conversation of, are we compatible sexually or physically, or do you have bad breath, can you dress, all of that stuff. We can get to that once we meet, but before we meet there's a qualifier. We both just want something casual. So you're not sitting there being pretentious and promising this person the world, but all you want is for them to be in your bed. Stealing.
100%.
Stealing.
Yeah.
You're a thief.
Don't ever con a woman out of her knickers.
It's so interesting though, because I do feel like honesty has the other side, because there's times where I've just genuinely be honest, like I don't have capacity for more, and the offense that is taken from the idea that how dare you believe that I'm just like, look, I'm just telling you where I'm at.
That is still safer.
Yeah, it's
That
still
is still
no,
the
it's
safer
100,
route.
it's 100% safer, but the shaming of authenticity is still a problem though. It's like, and the reason why I think men have tried to shape themselves to what they think it's going to be is because of the response they've got with their honesty. And it's just like, I'm not saying that they're like perfect, but I do feel like sometimes being honest and saying, actually, this is what I'm comfortable in, is shame still. And I don't think it's normally accepted. Like when you go to New York, there's a completely different context to your honesty. Like when I was in New York, I was getting like such clear propositions of just like, this is where I'm happy to be in. So unless you're going to do this and become my forever husband, this is what I'm comfortable for. And I have this much time and then that's it. So you're like,
100%,
wow,
that's how I
but
conduct,
you don't get that in England.
That's how I conduct myself. And I come from a totally different space. Not even, I mean, it's Johannesburg. Yeah, it's a big city. It's a hustle and bustle. So even in sex and romance, it's a hustle and bustle for that kind of thing. People, there's PR behind what you need. Show people what you want and go get it. That's what it is.
I think definitely it's a different generation definitely operate on that way, but I think like my generation, they're not comfortable with being that direct, or they're certainly not as comfortable. They are now realizing that not being more vulnerable and putting yourself out there and actually asking for what you want is going to get you what you want. There's no man that's going to come over to you and kind of like get into your head and find out and figure it all out for you. You have to be participant in that kind of conversation about what your needs are. But it's a very interesting conversation. I often look at life like this, like, you have seasons in your life, like, you might meet somebody, that person may start off as somebody who you really think is going to be the one. But then you realize that actually this may be just a season in your life. I accept that. Like, we're going to have a good time. I don't see you as my long-time partner. And I don't think you're going to be my husband or whatever. But we can still have a good time respectfully. Yeah. And, we know it's not going to go any deeper than that.
This
And
brings
then-
us to the closing, very, very short closing.
Okay.
Brings us to, is love overrated? Is finding romantic love overrated? If we can find a casual partner, and if we can find platonic friends to have a different kind of love, and a sexual partner that feeds into that part, and your family that feeds into the other part, is romantic love overrated?
I would say yes, from the stance of, I think it's incredibly powerful if you find it. I don't feel like it should be a catastrophe if you don't. And I think like when I do men's circle, we have this thing where we do the 6 types of intimacies, and we ask men to fill in where do they get that type of intimacy from. So it's like creative, experiential, spiritual, physical, sexual. There's all these different types of intimacies. And you notice that whenever you find gaps, that's what that sort of yearning is, to go out there and like connect with people. Because sometimes men don't want sex, they wanted a hug. And they realize the only way to get a hug was to have sex. And in that moment afterwards, they get some skin to skin closeness, some sort of care, some sort of softness in their day. And so masking creates this sort of other economy and this sort of inauthentic way of connecting with people. So I think it's incredibly important and powerful when it's real. And I think it's really damaging when it's not. So authenticity, as you mentioned, and honesty is so important, and allowing whatever happens afterwards just to happen, and not try to like curate the response from people to your liking. Accept it if you're not aligned.
Yeah. I think romantic love is it's like the rocket fuel at the beginning of any relationship. and you go through the chemical imbalances. You're right in that euphoria, right? And then eventually that dies down, and then that romantic love becomes your day-to-day existence. Now, that has waves, so you've got peaks and you've got troughs. Now, if the romantic love is what you're depending on in terms of your relationship and sustainability within your relationship, you're going to be in trouble, because every time there's a dip in that romantic kind of what you're going to do. So my whole thing is about, like, romantic love is there, it's a baseline, but what about the love that you have with each other, that you can actually build something together, building something together and having a commonality where you're either both evolving together within a relationship and supporting each other in their separate journeys, or if you may be building together and doing something. I think that's probably the more sustainable, more powerful thing long term than depending on strictly romantic love, because romantic love, if that's what you're gauging your whole relationship on, you're going to be in trouble, because what happens when you're in your dip?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Are you then going to think you're not in love, this relationship's failing?
Yeah.
When actually you got the other side of things, you're building some shit together. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that for me is the most important part in any relationship. Like, romantic, it's not enough, I think, for me. For me personally.
No,
yeah.
See, I think, Ro, I totally agree with everything you said. I think romantic love is not overrated, it's misunderstood. And because it's been programmed, unfortunately, into our heads of what it should look like, that's what people think they aspire to. But because you are a unique human being, having a unique experience with another unique human being, it will be whatever your personalities and your traumas and whatever and upbringing have conjured together when your personalities come together. As you said, the romantic or euphoric love is just to bring people together so that we can procreate and survive as a human race. But beyond that, maybe it needs to be examined what that actually means.
Yeah.
And that, like, I don't think it's in everybody's constitution to practice monogamy for the rest of their lives. Like,
Oh gosh, that's
Yeah.
that's a
Well,
whole
that's-
nother
that's
podcast.
That's an interesting.
No, we definitely need to go down there one
Whoa.
day for sure. Brilliant, Darwood. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. My name's been Marvyn Harrison. We've been joined by Lesley, Darwood, and Romantha. Thank you all for coming and spending time and sharing your thoughts and being so open. Please make sure you subscribe to this podcast on YouTube as well as on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Please also make sure you follow us on Instagram as well as on TikTok and Twitter, actually. But also just ensure that if you want to email us something and share any of your views or observations that you've had, please email hello@dopeblack.org. My name's been Marvyn Harrison. Make sure you follow everybody. Where can everyone find you, though? That's really important. How do we?
I'm on Instagram, Lesley McKenley.
yeah,
Nice.
Darwood Grace is Black Jesus across all platforms. Yeah,
The Real Roman on Instagram.
The Real Roman. Brilliant. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll do this again, I'm sure.
yes, please.
Mm.